Hello and welcome to the Friday edition of the Business Renovator with myself, Coach Phil, and my awesome buddy who lives in a place that I was born in. I was born in Banbury, England, and he lives in
Morton Morrell, England, which is near Banbury, England.
Hey, I had a friend ask me, before we get into the show, Bernard, I had a friend of mine ask me if you knew where Sidford Gower is.
Sidford Gower? No. I could find Sib. Is that with a B?
I might have got it wrong. It's near Banbury, he said.
Oh yeah, there's lots of little villages. The thing is, there's loads of little places like that though, scattered around. We're a small country with lots of little places. You're a big country with lots of big places. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, he was telling me, he's an Australian buddy of mine. He lives here in Calgary, but it was his birthday yesterday, and he was telling me about he had wishes from the UK, and I said, "Oh, really?" He says, "Yeah, just outside of Banbury." I says, "Get out of here. Have you ever heard of this place?" And I said, "No, I've not. I'll ask Bernard. He will." Apparently, I was wrong.
You will. I could find out. Yeah. What was it again?
Well, according to the way he's got it here, Sidford. We could take this offline and we can do it afterwards. I'll do that.
Yeah, we'll do that.
But see, guys and gals, that's the cool thing about having a mastermind. Whether it's a mastermind of two or more, it doesn't matter. As a result of that, we're miles away from each other. The hours between Bernard and I are 7 in terms of time zones. And I think a direct flight is 9 hours. But technology allows us to get together and mastermind. And it's Happy Pizza Friday, according to my buddy Eric. I will put that up there because he's a crazy guy in the pizza business. He's kicking it out. He doesn't make pizzas, but he helps people in the pizza business provide a product that doesn't, it's like when the product gets to your house, it's as if you were still in the restaurant. It's fresh because of the technology they use. So if you're looking to have a Happy Pizza Friday, check out Eric Bam. So having said that, and welcome, Eric, we're going to talk today on the sales process somewhat. And we don't have it scripted. We have a couple of slides to stimulate some conversation and a dialogue between myself and Bernard. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we come up with today. It's always a pleasure with our mastermind. Amazing things come out of it. At least I think they're amazing. Things I learned from you as we go through this process. So I'm going to share our...
I agree. We feed off each other, and I find these sessions very informative, Phil.
I do too. So I'm just going to share the screen because I can, and hopefully that doesn't lag us down too much. So Bernard's the good-looking guy in the woolly, the pullover, the cardigan.
No, it's a jumper. It's a jumper.
That's a jumper. Damn, I knew there was another name. Anyway, a jumper here is probably something different. And I'm the other guy, depending on how you're seeing this, I'm on top. That doesn't mean I'm better. It just means the way this technology works. And this is a Business Renovator. This is my brand. And Bernard's here to help support me with some ideas to share to our communities. And if you stay to the end, we have an offer. And it's a free offer. And if you're a business owner, it's something you might want to consider taking us up on. Anyway, moving right along, let's go right into this. So the topic for today is selling and the human brain.
Yeah.
And there it is. It just showed up. Isn't that magical? So tell us about this. Why did you pick this title, Bernard?
Well, because I think that for a start, we all sell, don't we? Everyone's a salesperson. But if we put in our heads two things, which are one, the way the human mind works in terms of 3 different phases, if you like, and 2, the sales process that I know that you're very strong on and that we buy into. It's called the new sales process, but it's been around for many years. But I think if you keep that in your head when you're in a sales meeting, it helps you keep on track in terms of how you actually talk and ask questions of the prospect. So here we have a basic model of the human mind, the human brain, and basically the bit at the bottom is called the reptile brain, which is the most ancient part of our brains, and that's all about survival and fight and flight and fear. So that's the thing that you have to overcome first, because that's the first thing that people will react to. That the first thing they'll feel is, do I need to be afraid of this situation? So there's
Yeah.
a guy called Big Al, Tom Schreiter, who talks about the salesperson alarm. Sorry, I cut you off there, Phil. You can come in on that one.
No, sorry. I was going to say I also know it as the amygdala, and that's a big long word. But there's a doctor that I was following, and I learned some things about it, and I've seen it show up in my own life. And it's, if you don't, the amygdala is the one that actually, just as you described it, fight and flight mechanism. So if you can do things and not wake up your amygdala, you can get more stuff done. So I used to be a smoker, 2 packs a day. Now I'm a member of SA, Smokers Anonymous.
Okay.
It's funnier in my head, I guess. Pardon me?
Does that mean you do it in secret?
Yeah, that's kind of right. So when I decided to be a non-smoker, I actually, and whenever I've made some massive changes, what's worked well for me in many, many cases is to not wake up the amygdala. So I stopped smoking by not telling people. That's another long story. And then I also, this doctor that turned me on to understanding why this is working for me. He's a psychologist working in the northwest part of the U.S. And his responsibility was to work with patients that just had surgery. So a lot of them were obese, and he knew that he needed to get them to eat properly and exercise. And he knew that if he told them what to do, the amygdala in that person's mind would push back. So what he did was keep the amygdala sleeping, I think I'm saying that right, and ask them things like, have you ever seen a treadmill? Do you think you could stand beside one, moving them over the hurdle a little bit at a time? And then he said, do you think you could stand on one for 5 minutes? And the next thing you know, they're over a short period of time, they start actually walking on it. And the amygdala is not doing its survival thing and telling you not to do this, because we're creatures of habit, and it keeps us in our isness. Anyway, that was a long-winded story to support your survival fear and the ethos reptile, but I wanted to put it in plain old English.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so the whole point of this is, if you look at 1, 2, 3 there, that's the speed with which our brains do those things. So the first instantaneous thing is fear. Do I need to be afraid? So we're not going to get very far unless we actually overcome the fear and establish what we call rapport in order to be able to, touch the next base. And then the next thing that happens is we decide whatever we want to do, whatever we're going to buy, we decide on emotion. So we have to appeal to the emotions. And then the third thing we do is, having decided that we're not afraid and decided that we want something, we then have to justify it to ourselves, which is where the logic, the process comes in. So the top bit is the neocortex, which is the sort of human brain, if you like. The middle bit, number 2, that's the mammalian brain. So that's the less advanced species than us brain. And the bottom bit's the reptilian brain. So our sales structure needs to sort of knock those off one at a time, if you follow what I'm saying. So we need to work up to the 1, 2, 3, which matches your sales process on a subsequent slide, doesn't it?
Which is coming up shortly. Before I jump onto it, though, I wanted to put this into plain English, because one of the things is, for me, knowing all of these big fancy words, I'll never remember them. So I was taught they're slightly different. There's a creative subconscious mind, which is kind of like the survival. There's the subconscious mind, which is the emotional, seek pleasure, avoid pain. And then the logical thinking is more like the conscious mind. And all three of these, there isn't physically 3 different entities in here, but just as an image, all 3 of those work together. And it goes through a process of evaluating and deciphering. Have I seen anything like this before? What happened there? Oh, I don't want that anymore. And it keeps you stuck in your isness. So if you're in a relationship and you got divorced and you had an opportunity to meet somebody else and maybe court with them, you might be reluctant until you get past your fear and bad memories. You need to grow and move through these areas. Don't want to get into psychology. I'm not a psychologist, but that's the way it was shown to me. So how does this relate to selling? Great question, don't you think? So we're going to go to the next slide.
just before you leave that, the thing
Yes,
that's
sir.
really worth grasping on this is that we do number one instantly, so that's where you get this. You've only got so many tenths of a second
Yes.
to make a favorable impression, because people feel this fear absolutely instantly. So you've really got to get over that very, very quickly, and then they feel the emotion much quicker than they make the logical decision. So the 1, 2, 3 is the order, if you like, of the speed of these things happening in the brain, and therefore
And
you've got. Go on.
I was going to say, and it's like faster than a nanosecond. It's
Yeah,
fast.
absolutely. Yeah.
So how does this relate to selling? Well,
Very good
Bernard
question.
uses a model that's similar to this, but he uses the triangle the other way. In my sales training that I've put together, this I was introduced to by Brian Tracy. And some people look at this and say it's a funnel. Okay, it could be a funnel. I just call it the inverted triangle or upside down triangle. And when I talk about that, after I've delivered and taught this to a group of salespeople or an individual salesperson, then we say where are you in the sales process in terms of the upside down triangle? And what we find out is that they didn't close the sale because they didn't build enough rapport, or they didn't understand the needs accurately enough, and they jumped in with a solution that was not relevant to the person they were talking to. And if you do this right, this model 40, 30, 20, 10 is amazing. So I know Bernard wants to pipe it up and tie this into the last slide we just looked at.
Well, yes, because the 40, 30, 20, 10 genuinely works. But the thing is, the reason the trust element is so important is because you have to overcome this fear and distrust in the bottom part of the brain, the primitive brain, before you can go any further. And the way you do that is by establishing rapport, know, like, and trust, rapport, asking questions, listening to answers, looking the part, body language, looking the part, anything that would make the prospect feel any sort of fear or suspect that you're a salesperson trying to sell them something can scare them off before you get any further. And I think this might come later, but I've heard a quote that basically says that if you concentrate on the relationship, the rest of it takes care of itself. And what that's really saying is that you have to overcome you have to establish this trust first of all through rapport, and then once you've got that, that's when you start to unearth what they need and what they want, which may be different, of course. And it's then the presentation is then where you can convince them that what they need and what they want matches what you've got. And by establishing that stage, when you move on to the close, it should, in theory, well, it will, in theory, take care of itself if you've done the other three things properly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've heard that totally. What you just said there in simpler terms is you need to earn the right. Well, actually, there's two words that we've just both used that we are not really powerful words. You don't have to do anything. You don't need to do anything. Mm-hmm. It might be in your best interest to build rapport, take the time to slow down, to go fast. And by doing what Bernard's talking about and looking at this upside down triangle, if you do these things effectively, if you've actually earned the right, then when it comes to the close, look at what percentage of that. It's a very tiny little bit of the process. You don't have to hire somebody, turn this triangle up the other way and change the proportion. So you spend 10% building trust and 20% identifying needs, and then 30% doing presentations, and then 40% closing, because closing is where the sales are made. That's bullshit. Sales are made by this whole process, depending if you're Canadian or British or American. Process, just use what works. But follow this. See if it works for you. It's amazing. Price is part of the puzzle in the sales journey, isn't it, Bernard?
It is, yeah. And price only really comes into the process once we've got past the trust element, and once we've got past the needs and wants section. Because unless they really want what we're offering, then the price is irrelevant, really. So the price won't come into it until the third and fourth bits of the presentation and close, really.
Exactly. So that's exactly where I was going. So the way it's been explained to me, there's a sales process. It's like a combination lock. and you have the numbers. And if you open the combination lock in the right order, twisting the numbers and lining them up, the lock will unlock and the sale will be made. Price out of order will kill any opportunity to be of service. This reminds me of a story when I was working with an advertising agency and we were doing some work for a dentist. And I did the preliminary investigation, needs analysis, that kind of stuff. And the dentist pushed me for a price. And I kept pushing back. Well, I didn't know. I kept resisting. And he kept pushing. And I kept resisting. And he says, no, just give me a ballpark. I won't hold you to it. And I folded. I gave him an approximation. I had no idea, but I guessed. So I went to my designer. We did the work, got the proposal, came back, delivered it to him. I think I had said $3,000 for the project. And we came back, we did our presentation. We needed $5,000. And the dentist said, well, you told me $3,000. We didn't get the order. And I said, well, yeah, you told me you wouldn't hold me to it. So what you want to do is deal with the situation, properly understand if you can solve the problem for them, help them see what the value proposition is. And if you've moved them properly down this funnel, upside down triangle, then when it comes to the order, price becomes less of an issue. And many of the people that I work with have found that to be the case. Yes, price is part of the conversation. Absolutely it is. They need to know what the investment is. But they also need to know what the value prop is. What do they get for doing it? How's it going to have an impact in their life? How's it going to make their pizzas better? How's it going to make their pizza stand be like as if it was just fresh from the restaurant? Even though you're not in the restaurant. And Eric Bam's company have found a way to do that, and that's the value that they bring into it. And he doesn't worry about price; he sells value, and they're kicking butt and breaking records. In COVID-19, who would have thought? Anyway, that's my rant on the upside down triangle.
I think can we just mention one other thing there as well, Phil? We've got needs there as 30%. What we obviously mean there is wants and needs, but that's fair enough. But what's really important is that the process is what we're trying to do in the sales process is establish what the customer, what the prospect wants or needs, whichever you like to call it, and then establish where they are now and work out what the gap is between the two. And then the whole idea of our questioning technique is to try and widen that gap to increase the hunger, if you like, for solving the issue or the problem or the concern. Would that make sense to you?
It kind of sort of makes sense. I look at that slightly differently, as I help paint a picture of what their life would be like. So current reality is this. It is the same thing, gap, and the ideal situation would be out here. And what we want to do is get them looking at where they would love to be versus where they are, and then provide ways and ideas and solutions and services that would help them get there with less stress and more ease. And if we can do that, when we've done that, when I've done that, I get new clients and often new friends.
Yep, spot on.
And Zig Ziglar, a quote I heard was reminded about yesterday, is if we can help enough people get what they want, we can get everything we want. And this is one way to do it without being sleazy. This is like being a doctor of selling. You do a proper diagnosis process, and then you can do the next thing, which would be prescribe, isn't it? And then you deliver.
Yep.
Anyway. Yeah, brilliant. Bernard, I love these conversations. Impromptu conversations with business coaches that love helping and serving people and helping them get to where they want to get to.
Just one thing to finish this up now, because this matches the way the brain is working. If we bear this in mind in our sales meeting, so the trust is 40%, the needs and wants is 30, presentation 20, close 10, then it means we'll stay on track in our sales meetings because we'll know what we should be doing in our sales meeting. So the great beauty of that to me is if you can picture that in your head, then it means you stay on track, because in the sales meeting you think to yourself, now where am I? Where have we got to? And obviously that's where you ask trial close questions to constantly check on where we've got to. But the idea is this helps us keep on track.
Absolutely, that's a litmus test that you may feel that it's advanced from you've understand their wants and needs. Now you're ready to present to them. You start the presentation and they're not coming along, or you sense there's some resistance. Then you can go back to the asking more questions to say, oh, I sense you have more questions. Can I ask what they are? And then you just find out what they are, and then go back to the presentation. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I position this, so that I help people no longer be brochure dropper offers and become professional salespeople, being like a doctor is selling. And also utilizing the thing of understanding that no one we talk to cares about you or us until they know how much we care about them. And this model represents that. It speaks to me 1,000%. So the law of indirect effort. The more you concentrate on the relationship, the more likely the sale will take care of itself. I think we kind of said that already, but it's nice to see it in black and white.
Yeah. And then you have to eliminate the fear first before you can do that. And the way you eliminate the fear is you have to establish your mega credibility. There must be no doubt in the prospect's mind that you are someone that they can trust and that can solve their problem for them, and that you're worth forming a relationship with.
Yes, and you eliminate the fear factor.
Yep.
Right. Everybody loves to buy, but nobody likes to be sold, myself included. Even though I'm in the sales training coaching space, and one of the things I specialize in, when I go into a store and they greet me in the ineffective way, I do the knee-jerk reaction. No, just looking, right? If somebody treats me like they care about me, then I'm more likely to have a conversation, feel much more comfortable, and my fear levels drop. I'm in the store for a reason. I might just be to get information, but at some point in time, I'm probably going to buy it. It could be I want to buy it right away, but I don't feel comfortable. Have you had anything like that in your life, Bernard?
Oh yeah, exactly the same thing. If I go into a store, exactly the same thing, and someone comes up and says, "Can I help you?" It's because it triggers off the flight and fight. It's another way we look at it is because at any given time, most people aren't now buyers, are they? They're future buyers, and therefore, if someone comes up and you think they're trying to sell you something before you're ready to buy, it scares you off. It's the same thing. It's the fear bit of the primitive brain, basically.
Yes.
Going back to Big Al, Tom Schreiter. He talks about icebreakers. He talks about opening things that you should say, which overcome the fear factor, so you don't come across the salesperson, and you establish instant trust and credibility. So I think that's a really powerful area to look into, and that's where stories are so important, isn't it? Because stories get right through to the mind, to the emotional bit of the mind, and bypass the fear bit, the bottom bit. So that's why they work as well. That's why selling with stories is so powerful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to put the screen back up for a minute. Where did it go? There we go. So I wanted to, in the second sentence, I should have boldified that. That's not a real word, but I just made that up. Mega. Why is that resonating with me right now? I'm going to tell you why it resonates with me. I want to do a little plug for a friend of mine. Let me get this back off to both of us. And I'm going to swap this. So look what I'm producing, my own show. Scary. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. And I want to do a plug for my buddy. So I'm going to go with the big guy. So Mega is part of half of the word of something I'm a member of. It's called #MegaMind. And Eric Bam was the originator of that. He created the group and made it happen and invited a number of people in. Unfortunately, I got invited in. I'm so grateful. And one of the things I want to do a shameless plug for is a wonderful lady by the name of Kellen Ann. And she has a company that's called, hang on, I'm trying to find the back logo here, called Cards That Wow. Cards That Wow. And I'm going to show you what she did for me. You see my logo in the back? Whoops, wrong hand. See my logo in the back here, Bernard?
Yeah.
Does that look similar?
It does.
She made these cards for me. So I'm excited about that. They just showed up yesterday in the mail. And then the Megamind group, this is kind of what we are what we do. We're committed, driven, and united. And man, what a powerful group. It's a mastermind group on steroids. So that's kind of our logo and our branding. And my shameless plug to Kellen, because she often watches these. And if not, somebody will tell her. Kellen's Coffee Talk every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time until we change our time. Then it'll be back to Mountain Standard Time. She gets some really incredible guests to come on and talk and share their information. It's about 30 minutes long. You get to learn from people around the globe. She's had famous comics come on. She's had authors come on. She's had guys that do pizza stuff come on, Eric Bam, and others. So Coffee Talk Tuesdays on Facebook. If you're interested and want to know more, can't find it, shoot me a note to coachphil.ca, and I will make sure that you get there. Okay, back to our slide deck. I'm just going to bring it back up. And thanks for allowing me to do the commercial there, Bernard. I was just so excited to show up in the mail yesterday, right? It's brilliant. She's an awesome lady. So let's go to my next favorite slide, which really is coming here. Should pop up here. There it is. So I'm a big fan in everything I do in terms of assessing things. And the way to assess it is to quink it, knowing what I now know. So if you've done a sales presentation, it's gone well. What did you like? What would you stop doing, continue doing, and start doing? If it didn't go well, what would you stop doing, start doing, and continue doing? It's a way for you to check in and improve yourself and elevate your skills to another level. And what would you do based on what we shared today? What would you stop doing, Bernard?
What would I stop doing? Yeah, you put me on the spot there, Phil.
You did, didn't I?
You did. I suppose what I'd stop doing, which I know you shouldn't do, I'd stop doing any sales presentation that I hadn't thoroughly prepared beforehand. So, because if you haven't thought about it properly beforehand, you're not going to follow the proper structure, and therefore you're not going to go through that process that we've just outlined. So I think it's very important to actually think your sales meeting out beforehand and structure them accordingly and follow that model. So I suppose that would be partly what I'd stop doing, partly what I would start doing if I'm not doing it all the time. I do it sometimes, but not all the time, and I know I should.
So would that be part of your continue to do too?
I suppose so. Yeah.
So I would encourage you to quink yourself to death or to success. That's what I would do. What I'm going to continue doing in terms of what we talked about today is to keep thinking about the upside down triangle. Continue to do that. I think it's a powerful mechanism to, just like you said, to check in where you're at with in terms of where you are versus where your prospect and future customers is. What will I start doing? I put myself on the spot now, didn't I? What will I start? I think writing down in my journal more effectively the outcomes and results. And what will I stop doing? Telling myself anything that doesn't empower me. That's what I will work on. So thanks for asking that great question, Bernard.
Did I ask that? Did I?
Yeah, it doesn't matter who gets credit. So we have this thing called the Profit Accelerator software program. And what we're able to do is, if you're a business owner, entrepreneur that's interested in making more profit, we're making it available this month. I have a few spots and Bernard has a few spots. And basically what we're able to do is find any business $100,000 in additional hidden potential that's in their business. And the good news is you don't have to spend a penny on marketing and or advertising. It's a 60-minute session. We're giving up our time to provide this service. What's the catch? Yes, there is a catch. Nothing to buy, no credit cards to give us. But the catch is, though, is we want to be able to take the findings and turn them into a case story, as you were talking about, story sell. So this helps Bernard and I have case story evidence that support any claims we might say as a salesperson and turns it into a factual, evidentiary piece of information. And we're looking for a few case stories to add to our roster that we can share as evidence for those people that are interested in retaining us in our coaching and helping them with their marketing and their sales process. So if that appeals to you, you can find us here. Let me go over to the shared screen here. Bernard's a good-looking guy at the top. Bernard Keevy. And his information.
Oh, right.
No.
Okay.
Well, yes. I'll unconfuse you. Maybe. So Bernard's a good-looking guy at the top, and his information is right there. If you're interested in having one of us, doesn't matter to us, Bernard or myself, here's our information so that you can have your Profit Accelerator software process done. And you end up getting a, I think it's about 22-page report with the findings that we have. We get a case study, and so it's a win-win for everybody. Normally, those are about $500 investment, US dollars, that is, to do that if we were promoting these as the service for fee, but we're not. Anybody who's watching here now or in the replay, for the foreseeable future, we will always have a few spots where we're looking for businesses to do a case story on it. You might find that one time we'll get to a point where we've got enough on plumbers or chiropractors and we no longer want to get a case story on that. But we'll let you know before we jump into the hour. Anything to say about that, Bernard?
No, other than the report will have numbers, everything's quantified, showing exactly how much this will generate for you and exactly how much this will generate for you. And, spelling it out, basically, it's all there in dollars. And as you say, it's 45 minutes to an hour. And, what we want from it really is maybe a testimonial and a case study. And that's it, really, at the moment.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So if that appeals to you, you can reach out to either one of us. Doesn't matter who, or both. It doesn't matter. We're here to serve and help. And this is it's a tool that the results are amazing. What it's finding and helping people in business leverage their greatness. And you might find that the strategy that we'd introduced to you about increasing your price, when we talk to people about looking at a price increase, they panic. But be rest assured, if that's something we talk to you about in our consult with you, you'll see what happens, and what you gain by increasing your prices. So if you want to find out what the impact on pricing has on your business without raising your prices initially, to take away the fear side of it, the amygdala, drop us a note. Let's get together and demonstrate it for you. I'm going to bring us back to the two of us, if I remember how to do that. There we go. Look at this. I got it.
Very good. Well done.
So, Bernard, we're going to do this again next Friday.
We are.
Same time.
Same time next Friday. On a similar related topic. Yeah.
So the same time next time for you and your part of the world would be what time for those watching?
So for my part of the world over here, UK time, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
And then where I'm at, I'm in Mountain Time in North America, and it starts at 10 a.m. here.
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, I'll let you have the last word.
Well, very, very enjoyable session, and enjoyed talking with you again as ever, Phil. And I think we learn from each other. We feed off each other, and I've learned a lot this evening. So thank you very much.
Great, and I learned a ton this morning. We'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah. Okay.
Cheerio, as they say in your country. That's where I'm from.
Toodle pip.
Toodle poop. I've heard that one before.